Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k 8th edition reveal video. Today's video should be nice and quick. We're going to have a look at the fight phase. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So again, this is going to be sort of me just reading through the article as me reacting to the article as I read through it essentially, and doing this from a guardsman's point of view, from a Imperial Guard player's point of view. So just a general recap is so far with 8th edition, it seems pretty balanced. We've seen some things that are a major boost for the Guard, like being able to pull back from combat, and we've seen some things which are a major kick in the gonads. But let's carry on. So the combat phase has changed significantly. It's no longer based on initiative. Long story short, it's all about who charges gets to go first. So literally says right here, we've already seen in our article on unit profiles that initiative has gone. Instead, the priority for striking is based on the previous phase, with those units that completed a charge swinging first. Okay, you charge, you go first. Obviously a massive buff for guardsmen. There's no mention here on, power fists or thunder hammers, or obviously power fists for guards. For guard, it's basically looking like if you charge, it doesn't matter what weapon you're armed with. It could be a rusty spoon or it could be a ginormous fucking power fist. You are going first. So power fist just got a big buff for the guard, and guard in general got a big buff. Power blobs, and despite the morale system and battle shock, power blobs, at the very least power squads, are looking pretty good. So that's a good thing to bear in mind. There's a definite emphasis on making charging into combat effective. These units have gotten all the way across the battlefield. They will at the very least get to swing. Units that activate gain a free 3-inch move. Gain a free 3-inch move towards the closest enemy. This can be used to get within 1 inch of other enemy units. If you're cunning, dragging more foes into melee and preventing them from shooting next turn, even if you didn't charge them directly, giving them no chance to overwatch. Enemy gun lines will need to be careful about how they position their supporting units so as to avoid getting dragged into the fight too. Okay, that's obviously a really, really important one for guard, because, or for how should I say, for guard commanders receiving a charge. Blasts may have gone, which mean we may be able to rank our men up nice and tight, but we can't have squads too close to each other. We essentially need to have a 5-inch gap between every squad, because otherwise what you're going to find happening is enemy units are going to be pulling in squads left, right and centre, and that's going to be an issue. You might have a significantly large squad of berserkers or death company or maybe even orc boys. You might find them enveloping half a gun line, half of your first wave, I should say, because we're going to be deploying in waves from now on. Your front rank, you might think, well, I've got 4 or 5 units there. It's I can 1 or 2 will break. It'll break through 1 or 2, and then I can envelop him in a nice sort of crossfire. No, if you're not careful, you'll lose your entire front rank, and you'll have to pull back with multiple units rather than just 1 or 2. So be really careful, guys. That's the #1 thing. It also, from a guard offensive point of view, us on the attack, means that we can pull in multiple units. If we are able to take a big blob of guardsmen, 40 guys, we instigate a mass bayonet charge, we could easily pull in 3 or 4 enemy units, which would stop them from shooting us the next turn. That's a pretty big deal. And remember, we'd be going first because we charged. So there you go. It means you've got to be clever on the defense, and it gives you a buff when you're trying to instigate your bayonet charges, guys. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. This is where, for the next paragraph, this is where the first time ever in 40k we see I go, you go playstyle rather than just regular playstyle. Jesus Christ, I just got fucking loads of notifications. Let's just turn the volume down on my phone. That's just literally 3 notifications at once. Right, so I Go You Go is now part of 40k. So following charges, players take it in turn to activate units across the board to fight. This can get quite tactical as both players need to choose the combats where dealing maximum damage will be important to them while trying to limit enemy retaliation on their valuable or fragile models. Right, essentially what that means is let's say you have three squads, let's say you have three squads, okay, and they're in combat. If squad A charged and squad B and C didn't charge, how this works is very simple. Your squad A gets to go first. Out of all the units in the board, it gets to go first because it charged. However, after that, I don't know how it's going to be worked out, but after that, your opponent will probably get to choose a unit to then go next. So it could be his unit attacking squad C goes next. So squad C could get attacked before they even get a chance to defend themselves. And then you get to choose which goes next. So you might think to yourself, well, I want squad C to counterattack. Or you might say to yourself, well, squad C's already taken quite a bit of damage. Them counterattacking isn't going to make a huge difference. But squad B is undamaged. So if I counterattack with squad B, I'll do damage with a fresh squad into his squad, and that means that the enemies I'm facing at squad B will do less damage to me, which means I've got a greater chance of winning that combat. So does that make sense? I hope it does. So essentially it means you've got to be essentially it means you want to activate fresh units first, because let's be honest, you want to pick and choose. Let's put it this way. You want to activate fresh units first, and you want to be able to admit when a certain fight is already lost, and you might as well just let that unit just go to the dogs and just attack with it last. Okay? Anyway, carrying on. There are a few units that can interrupt the sequence to attack out of turn 2. Tyranids and Lash Rips and Slaneshi Demons, for example. And can also be influenced by stratagems. More on these soon. So there you go. So it might be chargers go first, and then Tyranids and Lash Rips go next, for example. Okay, so players will have much more influence over the outcome of combat now, rather than purely the stats of the models involved, both in their own and in their opponent's turns. Though we still wouldn't expect Guardsmen to triumph over Khorne Berserkers. Carry on. Another thing that we've seen is that hit rolls are now fixed. This has the effect of making dedicated combat units generally hit on a 3+, while models representing the most competent warriors of the 41st millennium, Gilliman, the Swarm Lord, Ghazghkull Thraka, to name but a few, will hit on a 2+. How does that affect Guard? Not really. To be fair, Guard have always hit on a 4+, unless you're facing against Tau, which you're lucky if you get into combat with them. Oh, pardon me, guys. You're lucky to get into combat with them. So against units that Guard are good at beating up in combat, which is few and far between, it means we're worse off. But generally speaking, Guard always hitting on a 4+ is a bonus. It's actually a really big buff to conscripts, because conscripts often ended up hitting on a 5+ against any sort of dedicated close combat unit. Khorne Berserkers, for example, conscripts would hit them on a 5+. Not anymore. Well, maybe, we don't know. It could actually. My mistake, guys. It could actually be a huge nerf for conscripts. If conscripts hit on a 5+ constantly now in combat, that makes them much worse. Because it means that before they would always hit Space Marines on 4+, now they're hitting them on 5+. So actually, my mistake, guys. If conscripts are 5+ ballistic skill, 5+ weapon skill, they've taken a big nerf. It'll just mean that you'll have to use them for shooting. Almost finished. Carrying on. Close combat weapons, which we'll look at in the future, also gain new rules. Some will slide through armors, while others will hit with enough force to deal multiple wounds that can cripple or even kill powerful models. Across the board, the change lead to combats that are more deadly than ever. Generals who successfully coordinate a battlefield-wide charge will be rewarded with a phase of utter carnage, while their opponent will have to work hard to minimise taking damage and carefully consider their retaliatory options. Expect combats to be hard fought, bloody and tactical, just as they should be. We'll blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, right. So essentially what this means, guys, is for Guard players, If you are facing off against an opponent who, like orcs, who have the ability to cover large swaths of the battlefield and just charge you all across the line in one go, it means you're going to take a huge hit. However, power guard, blob guard, I know morale supposedly absolutely shafts guardsmen with the battle shock thing. That's a video that should be coming up soon. But it means if you do have large blobs of infantry and you instigate a mass charge across the battlefield, you can just roll over your opponents. You could have power axes going first, power fists going first, always hitting on a 4+. Who knows? Who knows? So overall, I don't think this is neither a buff nor a nerf for guardsmen in terms of combat. I think, of course, guardsmen are always, they're not a combat army. They're generally a shooting army. I think if you manage to get off a good bayonet charge, you will now be rewarded, which is great. However, I think we're going to see a lot of tactical retreats from guardsmen, pulling back from the first line, letting the second line open up and cause horrendous damage. That's what I'm thinking we're going to see from combat. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I hope you found it useful and informative. Of course, I want to see what you guys think about the new combat for Guard. Like I said, I think it's going to be better for other factions. I don't think Guard are affected either way too much. But yeah, we'll see what you guys think, whether you think Guard have been absolutely shafted or you think it's a massive buff. I'd really like to know. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.